Hi, my name is Ted, and today I'm going to talk about copyright law and licensing. This paper was supposed to be entitled Copyright versus Copyleft, but that's kind of a misnomer, primarily because there is no copyleft. All copyright law in the United States is governed by copyright law, which is Title 17 of the United States Code. Copyright law applies to published and unpublished original works from a creator, an artist, an author, whoever. One of the unique things about copyright is it is automatically granted. One does not have to file for copyright. The only time it's necessary to file for copyright with the U.S. Copyright Office is if the creator of the work feels that it has been infringed upon. Some of the things that can be copyrighted are literary works, fiction and nonfiction, musicals, dramas, choreography, pantomime, pictures, take a camera, graphics, drawings, sculptures, of course, and oddly enough, the individual images of a motion picture are under copyright. Other things that are copyrightable are other audiovisual work. That would include music, weblogs, and those kinds of things. So remember, when you create something, it is automatically copyrighted. Copyright lasts for a long time. It happened with Disney when he wanted to protect his work. And prior to Disney lobbying Congress to change the law, copyright law only lasted 20 years, and then it incrementally went up. And now we're at a very, very long time, where not only what we watch now will be watched by our great-grandchildren. Well, anyway, copyright lasts till the death of the creator, the one who created the work, and goes on till 70 years past their death. So say you were 20 years old and you lived till you were 80, so that would be 60 years that you've had copyright. Then it would exist another 70 years past that, so that would be, say, 150 years that you and your heirs could reap the benefits of ownership of that copyright before it's in public domain. Another type of copyright is if someone created a work, but they wanted it anonymous, or they wanted to use a pseudonym. And or perhaps they work for someone, and whoever they work for requires that they do this, or they're hired to do this. Under those instances, the copyright lasts 95 years from the time it is first published, or 120 years from the year of its creation. And what applies is that whichever which one expires, copyright owner has exclusive rights over their work. The first one is the ability to reproduce their work. So if you wrote a book, you can keep publishing that bad boy till no one wants to read it anymore. You can prepare derivative work. So if you wrote some mystery novel involving two sisters, and it was a success, you could keep writing about those two sisters in derivative works based upon the original, of course. You're allowed to distribute copies of the work, sell it. Another right you have is you can perform the work publicly, not only out in amongst an audience, but also in a digital format or film format. The copyright owner also, and this is one of the most important, and this is this is the crux of this actually, is the copyright owner has the right to license their work for use by others. But they also have the right to transfer ownership of it or lease it out or rent it out if that's what they desire. But the primary thing nowadays is license of use. We don't want, well, corporations maybe want to take the copyright away, and so they'll offer to buy it. But for people who just want to see or use it, it's perfectly possible. And nowadays, licensed work covers books, music, video, cinema. All those things are now being put on the internet for sharing. There are limits to what one can copyright. So if if the copy, or if the work, not because it has no copyright, if the work is not in a tangible form. For instance, if you gave a speech off the cuff and you did not write it down or it was not recorded and cannot be attributed to you, then you do not have copyright to it. The second one is, and that would be also not only but pantomime. There might not be a recorded or any notation of the moves the pantomime did, and that would also apply to dancers. Titles, names, short phrases, and slogans. So, the titles of books, titles of movies, titles of any piece of work for that matter, are not copyrightable. Name is not copyrightable, so you can't do what Madonna tried to do and copyright her name. That's just not possible. Even corporations can't copyright their names. Short phrases like peace out or whatever, WTF, OMG, those are not copyrightable because they're so short and they can't be copyrighted. So, which brings us to the interesting thing, is a haiku a short phrase or is it a work of art? Interesting, huh? And slogans, the Boy Scout honor is not, or whatever, is not copyrightable. Things like ideas, procedures, methods, systems, processes, concepts, principles, and discoveries are not copyrightable either. Works consisting of entirely of information that's of public domain is not copyrightable. So these are normally gathered from government resources. So like census, if you published your version of census statistics or use them in your work may be copyrightable, but the information that you gathered from the public domain or that which is common to us is not. Other things would not be as a calendar. You cannot copyright a calendar. You may be able to copyright the images that accompany a calendar, but the calendar itself is not copyrightable. That would also, things like inches, common things we all take for granted. those cannot be copyrighted. However, with titles, names, short phrases, and those can be covered by by trademark. So, you can trademark the name McDonald's, or you can trademark a short phrase, or yeah, you can't trademark a smiley face because that's a common symbol. But if you used it in a work, but it's just not done. So those cannot be copyrighted. Uh, I think the smiley face is public domain because it is so common. I may be wrong about that. Um, Things like ideas, procedures, methods, systems, those have other venues for protection. Some of them would be patents. Another one, they could seek protection as trade secrets, especially for things like recipes. You know how secretive Coca-Cola is about their secret formula, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, they're protective of theirs too. So those are the kinds of things, though not copyrightable, they're still a means to protect those kinds of things. Another limitation is that of fair use. There are 4 factors of fair use, which are the nature of the copyrighted work, how much of it is copied, and how much of it is copied in relation to the whole work, the effect on the potential market value of the copyrighted work, and copyright protects the way authors express themselves. So, with the nature of the copyrighted work, if you say you wrote a 5-line poem and someone decided to use 3 or 4 lines of it, they could be found infringing of your copyright because they use such a great deal of it. If they took 5 lines out of Moby Dick, that would be small and de minimis use of it, so that would be authorized, as long as you attribute that. So, how much of it is used, the nature of it. So the nature would be, that gets into Moby Dick and a 5-line poem. And also the effect on the potential market or the value of the copyrighted work. So say you were selling Mickey Mouse t-shirts, or Mickey Mouse, some sort of memorabilia, or Charlie Brown or Calvin and Hobbes. Those are all copyrighted images. So with those copyrighted images, they have a very strong potential value. In other words, Disney or Charlie Schultz, or whoever owns Charlie Schultz Peanuts now, could be profiting off of those t-shirts, of those copyrighted images that they created. So they may be found guilty of infringement too, if they in fact used it for profit, and therefore making it so that the copyright holder is unable to profit from that. So copyright protects the way authors protect themselves, and so if you saw something, say a clip of a movie, and you wanted to use it, each image is copyrightable according to what was said earlier. But if you take those same images, put different words to them, it becomes a parody, or to some degree a new piece of work. So if you've taken something that's been copyrighted and changed it and made it your own, so it can't be confused with the original, then yes, let's do that. So you can parody it, and those are the limitations of copyright law. And remember the 4 factors of fair use. The big thing is if you feel you want to use something and you don't feel you can apply the four one of the four doctrines of fair use, then it would be best not to use it. As always, when you use someone else's material, try to get their okay to use it. Otherwise, it could be problems. Now I'm going to talk about licenses. I'm only going to talk about the Creative Commons licenses only, though. Actually, if you look at a Creative Commons license, with the exception of one, they have three characters. One is by, which means that you have to give attribution to the person who created the work. The other one is SA. Actually, there are four. SA, pause. Ready? Action. Now I'm going to look at Creative Commons licenses only. There are four things that you may notice when you see a Creative Commons license, and the Creative Commons is up to version 4 now. Okay, the first one of these is by. Whenever you see the by on it, it's usually capitalized. It means that you have to give attribution to the work that you're using. The second one is SA, which is share alike. Share alike means that whenever you see it, it requires that you share any derivative works of it, or you can just share what you're looking at, but that would be covered by too. But so if you do any additional work on that, that would require that you also share it. The next one is NC. NC means that the work cannot be used for any commercial purposes. Even if you make a derivative copy of it, or add any derivatives to it and make any derivative works, they also cannot be used for commercial purposes. And the next one is no derivatives. That means that the creator doesn't really want you to add on to his or her work, but if you do, you are not allowed to distribute any copies of any derivatives you did to anything that has the ND caveat to it. Okay, the first license is by. Okay, the only thing that requires is attribution. Okay, you can share the work, you can adapt it, you can tweak it, you can do whatever you want to, depending on the type of work it is. So if someone makes a video or a piece of music and it is only by, you can do whatever you want. You can use it commercially, make as many derivatives as you want. You can, you're free to do whatever you want with it. The second one is by SA, or share alike. Okay, here share alike, it means that it requires attribution because of the by there, and the SA stands for share alike. So it gives you license to share the work, make derivatives of the work, but any derivatives you make, you have to share. So you can't lock it in. You can't change that. So if you make a derivative work of something that has a by SA on it, you have to release it with the same license that you're using. The next one is by no derivatives. Okay, by, of course, means that attribution is required, the name of the author or whoever you got it from, and you're not allowed to make derivatives. If you do happen to make derivatives, though, you are not allowed to share those derivatives. However, you are allowed to share the original work. The by NC. By requires attribution. NC mean it's non-commercial, which means you can't use it for profit. And any derivatives, you can make derivatives from it, but any derivatives also cannot be for profit. So that's what that one stands for. And next one we're going to go to is buy, non-commercial, share alike. So buy requires attribution. Non-commercial means that that work or any derivative works cannot be used for profit, and any derivative works, because of the SA, share alike, mean that those derivatives also cannot be used for profit. So you can add on to the work and you can use it as much as you want. You just can't charge for using it. And this is the Creative Commons most restrictive license. It's by, non-commercial, no derivatives. Of course it requires attribution. Okay, you can't use it for profit, and you're not allowed to make derivatives of it. If you do make a derivative of it, you can not distribute them because of the no derivatives. Non-commercial, you can use it as much as you want, or use it as much as you want, but you can't add on to it, and you cannot use it for any commercial purposes whatsoever. The final license that the Creative Commons has is public domain. They added a public domain license, and that is mainly used for academicians and scientists, people who have done work that they just want to release into the public, for their use. So if they came up with a great idea, and normally that would apply to things like maybe a paper on mathematics where they're shown to do something, or a discovery of some sort. There hadn't been a means to release things in the public domain and be labeled as the public domain. So that's why they came up with this license. You're allowed to do whatever you want with it. You can, of course, no attribution is required for it. You can share it, make derivatives of it, or use it commercially. It's up to you. Well, that is the Creative Commons, and this is Ted Velasquez. I hope you learned something from this small video I did, and this is Ted Velasquez signing off.